Hi, my name is Emma. I use she, her pronouns, and I identify as a gay woman.
Hi there, my name is Kimberly Lomelli. I go by she, her pronouns, and I identify as pansexual.
Hi, my name is Kirsten. I use she, her pronouns, and I identify as lesbian, queer, or gay.
My name is KP. I go by she, her pronouns, and I identify as lesbian or queer.
Hello, my name is Lacey. I use she, her pronouns, and I identify as a lesbian in the queer community.
I first realized that I wasn't heterosexual right after high school. There were hints of it and ways that I were thinking about it but never pursued up until I was in my early 20s, 20 and 21.
When I saw all of my other cisgender peers in middle school begin to talk to their opposite sex, I didn't have that exact same reaction, and I strayed away from dating or even cultivating a crush because it was oftentimes towards the same sex, and I almost always questioned as to if that was normal, or maybe I just really enjoyed their friendship. So my first realizations were definitely in middle school, which was a very hard time to make those realizations because it was very, very confusing.
I was in middle school. I was kind of the teacher's pet at the time, and so I finished my work early, and my teacher sent me down to the office to give a new student a tour of the school. And as soon as I saw her, I was like, whoa, like a rush of feelings that I had never really known how to understand at the time. And I remember showing her around and just being completely infatuated with her. And it was really confusing because all of my girlfriends at the time had been talking about all the boys that they had crushes on. And I always felt like I had to make up a name or someone that I didn't really actually find attractive just to kind of fit in. But that was really scary, realizing that I was not only not attracted to men or boys at the time, but just only attracted to women. And basically from every year on thereafter, I was infatuated with some friend, classmate, or sports teammate before I was comfortable coming out. It was tricky.
I really didn't have any role models or celebrities that I looked up to. I am the first openly gay person in my family, so I didn't really have role models there. I from a really small town and didn't watch a whole lot of TV. Once I moved to college, how they express themselves, and then obviously once I moved and really kind of came out, it was very clear. I watched the L Word and just kind of got caught up on all the lingo and really just found myself finding my footing there.
I unfortunately did not have any individuals that I looked up to prior to coming out, which was super hard. I mean, the only one I can think of is Shannon Beveridge, and she was a YouTuber that I came across once upon a time back then. Even then, she didn't really speak on a lot of the topics of LGBTQ related things. And because my family was very Catholic and very into our traditional culture, which was Mexican, I never really had a whole lot of people to look up to prior to coming out, which made everything a whole lot harder.
There was no one in my family that I had known of at the time that was also a part of the LGBTQ plus community, so I felt really lonely in that. In terms of celebrities that I looked up to, I mean, a lot of it came from television shows that I was watching or YouTube channels that I had found of people who were in relationships. So I remember I was infatuated with Callie Torres in Arizona on Grey's Anatomy. That was huge. I was obsessed with that. And there was a relationship on the show called Pretty Little Liars on ABC Family at the time that I was also really obsessed with. And I also remember watching the L Word secretly in my room when I was in early high school. Oh my God, what is this? Who are all these people? It's okay to be out, and there are people that are actually in relationships. Because I felt when in the media or even in the people that surrounded my life, I knew no queer people. I didn't see out open queer people in relationships with other queer people. And so just kind of seeing that through a screen was kind of my saving grace for a while. But yeah, definitely television shows and characters on those.
22 years old, and I was in a place in my life where I had been able to remove myself from the town and the life and the heterosexual life that I had grown up in, and I was able to be a part of a different environment that kind of was able to help me, bloom into who I am. And that's what made me come out when I moved away across the US and was able to really find my own.
27. Took me a very long time to really be comfortable with the idea. So I think she knew. I mean, she's a mom, she knows everything. I guess officially wouldn't have been until 27, but I had encounters with women. I didn't ever see that representation growing up, or otherwise I would have definitely came out earlier.
I came out at the age of 23. For me, I was going through a really big life change at that point. I really just felt that at that time I was shedding off a whole new light. And if I was going to be making this big announcement, I really wanted to just be really true to myself. And so I came out to my parents and my family. I think it was just at the age of where I felt truly myself, and I truly was sitting with it and knowing this is the life that I was going to continue to live, and I needed to just be honest with those around me.
I came out when I was 19 years old, and I didn't even come out as gay at that point. I had said that I liked girls and didn't really put a label on it, just because if I had said, even just saying the words "I am gay" was terrifying. Like I physically couldn't say them for like a year or two after that. But a big part of me coming out at that age was, I was just out of high school and I was about to start college, and it felt like a fresh start. And it's interesting because I feel like I had a pretty decent experience in high school. I don't remember anything super negative happening other than me being in the closet and like heavily crushing on multiple people that, I could never tell. But there was a strict, heteronormativity in schools growing up. Like, it was just there. Boys would be boys and girls were, being asked to send pictures, and, bad things were happening. And it was just kind of a toxic environment. And the further I've gotten away from it, I realized like I did not feel safe if I had come out at that age. Just the immaturity would have been really hard for me to deal with. And I did know other people who were out, just a handful, and they were not always treated with the kindest words from other people, even staff. So it was difficult. So waiting was important for me, and it was hard being in the closet for 7 years before coming out. But that was what was right for me at the time.
I believe that I'm constantly still coming out to people, which makes things tough. But I came out to my friends freshman year of high school because of a relationship I had started. And I came out to them because I didn't want to feel like I was lying about a relationship or anything of that sort. And I felt comfortable coming out to them. I didn't necessarily come out to my family. They kind of found out. And it was a very negative experience.
I came out to my dear friend Kirsten. We were childhood friends growing up, and we rekindled our friendship right before I moved away to New Orleans. And, it kind of just came out naturally, which felt very good and comfortable and safe to be able to say it to someone and say it out loud and make it known and make it present in your life and also in someone else's life. And it was just a genuine, connection that I was able to make with this friend in my life. And I'm forever, forever grateful for that.
It is definitely something that I was terrified to do, but now have had come out over 10 years ago. I can't even remember, but I'm pretty sure I came out to my mom first. I was going to start seeing women, and I wasn't going to go back on that. And I chose this person because she definitely has the epitome of unconditional love. And I knew that no matter what I said or how I said it, that she would be understanding to that. And I was right. I picked the right person. She, of course, was very supportive. And her number one thing was, as long as I'm treated well and happy, that she doesn't care who I was with.
So the first person I came out to, I wouldn't say it was exactly a choice. Like, I didn't plan this going into it. My mom had, like, known I was gay from probably the same age that I started realizing I was attracted to girls, but didn't tell me that she knew that, because she just needed me to figure it out on my own, I guess. But she would always poke me with questions, you know, like, oh, who are you attracted to? And as time went on, it was kind of geared towards, like, oh, are you attracted to girls? And every time she'd asked, I'd be like, no, absolutely not. Like, no way, of course not. I would shut down. I would literally put a wall up and, like, leave the room, go upstairs, leave the house. I couldn't deal with it. Until one night, I think I was in college at the time, she was asking me, my dad and my sister were in bed, and it was just her and I up downstairs watching a movie, and I finally said, yes, I'm attracted to girls. And then I just started crying. Like, I bawled my eyes out. And I'm glad it was her, because, you know, she'd had a feeling, she'd known, so it wasn't like a shock that she almost needed to, like, grieve the image of me that she had in her mind of, you know, me marrying a man or what. She gave that up a long time ago. So it was really comforting. I mean, she was very supportive and just told me that she was here for me, and has been a huge advocate for me since then. So I feel really grateful for that.
In college, playing sports, there were other out lesbians, and within my friend group, I felt supported. Being away from home was definitely helpful. The best support would just be, you know, checking in and acting like I'm normal, because I am.
I definitely did not feel any support from my family. I did for my friends. They were all very loving, very supportive. But for my family, I got a very, very toxic, negative reaction to me coming out. And honestly, thinking back on it, I can't believe it ever happened that way, because family is such an important topic in our culture. But I think I would have wanted to be supported by being met with love. And I'd rather have been met with the curiosity of not knowing and wanting to know than the negative, angry aspect that they came towards it. And just to have family and friends to have loved and support me in the same way would have made things a whole lot easier than feeling like I was living two different worlds.
Yeah, I would definitely say there were a few factors that impacted my coming out story. Being where I lived, it was definitely a small town, not really having other communities or people that I could look up to or that I knew were also gay. Also went to church every Sunday, so really growing up learning that this was a bad thing, and that I'd be full of shame, and that that's not something that is very godly. So that definitely, I think, had a lot to do with why I kept it in for so long, and just really, like, trying to pretend it wasn't there or just ignore those feelings. I definitely think that that is a hard part, when you truly just want to be at yourself and not worrying about what other people maybe will say or do, and when you're just living your fullest. I feel like that energy can really tell, and it's really powerful.
Yeah, I was really supported when I came out. Like I said, my mom was awesome, and basically she went and told my dad, and then told my sister and all of my extended family. So I didn't really take part in it. I remember I'd come home from college for a weekend, and she'd be like, so I told your grandparents. And I'd be like, you did what? And she was like, yeah, and they were totally fine with it, like, very supportive. And I was like, okay, like, completely shocked. I don't know why I wouldn't be, because, you know, I have a very wonderful family. But yeah, everyone was great. And then I told my friends, and I sat a couple of them down, and I told them, and they were like, cool. Like, they didn't make it a big deal. They just said, all right, that sounds good. So just very fortunate.
So coming out has been a really liberating experience. it has definitely helped me find my voice. There are those people who they're going to support you no matter what. And there's going to be some that don't, but learn who your true supporters are and lean in towards those people. We have something that's called chosen family, which are your other community members who you support and who they support you. And it's really all about just advocating for yourself and encouraging others to do so, because our voice matters and it doesn't define our worth if we are in the LGBTQ plus community.
Coming out has really impacted my life in so many ways. I'm definitely more of a confident person, and just being able to really stay true to the things that I believe in and that I love. I've definitely found different love, support, and community since I've come out and just really been true to myself. I just feel like one of the lucky people who was able to have support and to never really been
than I was beforehand. And it's crazy because I was in the closet for 7 years, which is longer than I've actually been out. And there's still things that I'm working through, you know, for having been in the closet that long. It causes a lot of mental health problems. And so working through that has been huge, you know, getting to know other queer people, dating other queer people. It's been wonderful. Like, I feel like I love myself. Like, I will look in the mirror and I'll tell you, like, I love you. Like, it's just, it feels so much easier to walk out and be me. You know, there's moments that are terrifying, you know, certain people that you run into or certain spaces where you don't feel safe. And that's really hard. But honestly, I would rather be brave and show my face so that I can inspire other people who were, you know, like me in the closet, who maybe haven't had queer people around them that they've seen be visible. And I want to be that person for them.
Coming out has impacted my life in many ways, good and bad. I think good, obviously I feel free to be myself and I feel free to love who I wish to love, and it's a great experience. But in the negative aspects, as a growing young professional in corporate America, it's a question that I'm constantly having to answer or have to re-come out to managers and peers and colleagues when they find out. And that's always been hard. And also, like, still having a very negative support system from family has been a huge impact, because my relationships with those people who matter a lot to me aren't as powerful as it used to be, which is definitely a tough thing to live life through. And also just the fact that the impact of having everyone know that this is who I am at all times is extremely hard, because I feel like I don't owe them that explanation, even though that they feel like they are owed that explanation. So lots of impacts, but I think overall it has felt very amazing to just be able to love who I wish to love.
I feel heteronormativity affects my life still. I also don't think it'll be something that goes away anytime soon. Growing up and just in life still, every day you're programmed to be a certain way, and it's, you know, you're constantly reminding yourself that it doesn't have to be that way, and that it can be a different, you know, scenario for you and for others. And so I think that's something that I still always kind of challenge myself with, and something I'm always thinking about. Same goes with transphobia, biphobia, you know, it's homophobia. You're trying to work through these inner workings that have been, you know, set in stone in a world where you're just trying to prove it differently. And so I think it's something that challenges everyone, not just me. And I think it's always something you kind of deal with and you think about and you internalize and try to work through and work past.
I definitely think internalized heteronormativity and homophobia are still present in my life. I mean, it's hard for them not to be. Like I said, I've been out for only 3 years, which is about half the time that I was in the closet. So there's a lot of internalized stuff that I'm working through. to continue to accept myself. But I can say that I'm on the right path, and there's things that I'm noticing about, the way that I think about myself or my identity that can still be negative at times. And I still have the desire to hide who I am in certain moments where I'm more anxious or depressed. So working through that has been challenging, but worthwhile, because I think there's definitely a light at the end of the tunnel.
It's something that I've had to have many conversations about with the people in my community, because I am so self-hating when it comes to my sexuality, even though I now have a better support system of people who absolutely love and care for me. And I always feel like such a burden when I have to talk about these things, because I am still battling every day the ideologies of my family and their traditional values and views versus mine. And it's definitely affecting my life, because I'm not able to live in my relationship and be completely at peace with who I am and with who they are and with our relationship as a whole, which isn't fun to deal with. But again, I've had very supportive people in my community who have helped me in those conversations. I had to face the factors of being Mexican American, and the religious aspects of my family were Catholic, and I grew up in a Catholic Christian home where I also participated in the church, and I later on dismissed myself from that simply because it wasn't making me very happy. But those things impacted my story a lot. I went through a really hard time, and my coming out journey was an uphill battle where I felt like I was constantly fighting to make sure that people understood that I was never going to just change and that this was who I was. And I went through a lot of obstacles to get to where I'm at.
As far as the spiritual beliefs realm, I grew up Christian and went to churches, and it's been challenging to navigate.
I was not raised religious at all. Neither of my parents came from religious households, and so I feel like that kind of spared me from certain environments in organized religion where there's a lot of homophobia, and you are taught that being gay or queer is not okay. Even then, the social society was enough to keep me in the closet for a good amount of time. But I definitely think I avoided more pain not growing up in a super religious setting. I was also raised, in a middle-class house, and I'm white. So there are other privileges that I have as a gay woman that other people in the LGBTQIA+ community don't have. And so I recognize a lot of those, and the access to certain resources that I've had that others may not have because of these identities. And so I'm very grateful for what I've had, and aware of the privileges that I have as well.
The few people that I have talked to about coming out stories, the biggest thing that I've learned is that support goes such a long way. And if someone is struggling with coming out or coming out again, it's the best thing that you can do to be there for someone or to make them feel safe and seen and heard and loved is just to be a support for them and to stand by them, stand with them. And that's genuinely something that I think is important when coming out, or if you feel like you're changing or you're going through something, it's important to know that you've got those people with you, and that group of people, whether it be family, whether it be a chosen family, friends, whoever it may be. That support that you can have and that you can give to someone goes the longest ways.
Coming out stories, and I think they are always super powerful, whether their families are loving and supporting with them, which is always, best case scenario, to people who have related to my story where it's been an uphill battle. I think I love always getting to hear people talk about their journey and how it's affected them. And most of all, learning about, that there's people out there who are going through the exact same thing that we are, and that they are also dealing with obstacles, whether they're big or small. And also knowing that there's hope for those people who have coming out stories who are supportive and loving and caring, and that one day we get to implement that for our children and the kiddos around us and the people around us.
I have. It's really awesome because I've actually had a few people come out to me, and me being like one of the first people that they come out to. And that's a really awesome feeling that you have provided a safe space for someone to share their queer identity with you. And I also listened to one of my favorite podcasts. It's called Coming Out with Lauren and Nicole. And each episode, they interview someone in the queer community about their coming out story. And there's over 100 episodes on there. I've been listening for, I think, about 2 years at this point. And the experience is amazing, and it's been really eye-opening for me.
When you are able to connect with someone who has had a shared experience and support each other in ways that you might not have had, or you get a deeper sense of connection in that way. So I always learn that I'm not alone in the world.
I think the best advice I can give is that it might not ever make sense. You might not ever have all of the answers or everything figured out. And one day you might, and the next day it might grumble down, and you might be changing everything you thought was in one direction. Feel comfortable with coming out. Make sure you're in the right place and mindset. And if it's something that makes you happy and you can do, then do it. And if it's something you're not ready for, wait until you're ready. Follow what you feel. No one else can really tell you differently. You know you better than anyone else.
Some advice that I would give if you're not out yet and would like to be in the future is just really to spend some time with yourself and really find out what it is that makes you you. Not worrying so much about the labels that people want to put on you or these boxes that you might think you need to fit into. I think just really truly loving yourself first, and that being enough. And then anyone who loves you in your life will accept those that you love. And I think it's just an amazing thing to just love people and just to see the uniqueness in each other.
I think my piece of advice would be come out when you are ready and do it on your time and no one else's. And of course, always do it when you know that you're going to be safe. And whether you are supported or not, that there's absolutely people out there who love and support you and are extremely proud of you and proud to know that you are who you are. And coming out isn't something that should be a race. It should be a journey, and it should absolutely be something that you do when you are completely ready and not being forced by anyone or anything, because it's your story to tell, no one else's. And I think that's the most beautiful aspect of that.
Showing yourself grace. That's a big one. Not rushing the process. I always felt like there was this pressure on me that I needed to come out, but I honestly didn't know how to. Someone had to physically ask me. Everybody's process is different. So one of the best things that you can probably do is to find community in any way you can, whether it be, through a character you watch on TV, or people that you meet on dating apps, or people that you meet on Facebook group chats, or just places where you can be affirmed in your identity, where you can find other queer people who can tell you that it's okay, and love you and support you through the process.
Find people you trust. You talk it through with them. Try to connect with other folks within the community who are already out and hear of their experiences. Throughout it all, just knowing that how others react is not a you thing, it's a them thing. And really just be confident in who you are, and just knowing that there's nothing wrong with you and that you are worth it, you are worthy, and it's going to be okay. There will be people who support you and continue to be your authentic self.
If I was 1% more courageous, I would love myself a little bit more loudly so others felt like they could do the same.
If I were 1% more courageous, I absolutely would begin the dialogue of what it's like to be a part of the LGBT community in the Mexican community and the Latinx community, and start these conversations of integrating what are traditional values to just the values of being who you are. And I would absolutely love to do that one day.
For me, this is really pushing that courageousness out. I've really never publicly shared my story or talked about my story or saw that there was any power in my story. And I think by just really owning myself and my truth and sharing it with others, I think that's what I'm doing courageous right now. And I just can't wait to keep sharing and to keep just being there for other people who I've had people be there for me in my corner. So I'm really just excited to keep being courageous in that.
It changes. As a shy person, I challenge myself to be more outward facing and put my voice and my thoughts out there. This video is actually something that I am doing because I am 1% more courageous, and I will continue to lean in the presence of fear. When you feel that uncomfortableness is the exact moments of when you should continue to lean in, and I encourage you to do so.
I would seek out more community. With the pandemic, everyone's been shut in, and it's been really hard to not feel isolated, especially being queer. I have realized that it is hard for me to be in spaces that don't have other queer people in them. And so if I was 1% more courageous, I would be actively searching for more of those spaces, because I know that I need them. I just need to get the willpower to put myself out there, because it's hard, but I have every intention of doing it, and I know that I'll get there at some point.